story begins with Gillian as a basic school teacher. While she is at work, one of her students tells her that there is a call for her from the NASA Communications Center. They hand the call over to her husband, Spencer, and Gillian is surprised by the call because her husband is supposed to be in space orbiting Earth. But her husband talks to her to check on her, so Gillian becomes happy and goes to her house and meets her sister Nan and tells her what happened. Nan tells him she's lucky to have her husband, Spencer, talking to her from space. Suddenly, breaking news appears on television. The news revolves around an accident that occurred on NASA's outer space stations, and pictures of her husband and his colleague Alexei are shown in the space accident. Suddenly the doorbell rings and she meets a man named Sherman from NASA, and before he explains anything to her, he asks her to come with him to the agency regarding her husband. They arrive at the agency and meet Alex's wife, whose name is Natalie. They hug each other and cry because they think Spencer and Alex are dead and continue to console each other, until the NASA director enters and tells them that Spencer and Alex are fine, and explains that Spencer and Alex's mission was to repair a satellite, but they had an explosion in the spaceship. Communication between them and the agency was lost for a while, but it came back again and they were outside the ship at the time, but they were able to reach the shuttle, and were returning to Earth. The screen flipped to follow the landing process from space, and they arrived safely on Earth, but as soon as Spencer and Alex descended to Earth, they entered the hospital because they were injured. They remained unconscious, but the doctor reassured them, Gillian, and her husband were in good health. But unfortunately, Alex was seriously injured and will remain in intensive care. Days pass and Gillian spends them at her husband's hospital bed. As the days go by, Spencer gets better and better. Gillian is very happy, but when Natalie watches her husband, his condition worsens. But suddenly he rose. He says incomprehensible words and makes strange movements, and the doctors come quickly. But suddenly his heart stops and the doctors give him an electric shock and his heart starts working again. And all this happens while Natalie cries and Spencer stands up as well. Within weeks, their condition improves and they are discharged from the hospital. The agency celebrates astronauts and their heroic deeds. The president honors them and Natalie talks to Gillian that her husband did not say anything about what happened to him. And she is worried and knows that not only Spencer, but also Alex is quiet and does not speak. And she says that they need some time to calm down and return to normal. After the party, Spencer tells his wife that he has resigned from NASA and will be moving to a new job at a space science company in New York, where he will receive a very large sum of money. Gillian is sad because she is leaving town, but says nothing. And you agree in the end. On the second day at night, they celebrate saying goodbye to the city and the new job. But Gillian sees Alex at a table next to her looking very nervous while talking to his wife Natalie. And suddenly Natalie hits her husband and Alex suddenly bleeds. He runs and puts his hand on Spencer and his behavior becomes aggressive. Suddenly he falls to the ground. Alex is dead. Everyone is in shock. Then a press conference is held and a NASA representative offers condolences on Alex's death and announces that he died of a stroke. The next day, Gillian left and her husband tried to comfort her about Alex's death. Gillian goes to Natalie to console her, but Natalie says that her husband has been talking for a while with someone from space, someone who is not from our world, and she says that this strange thing lives inside her now. Natalie told her that this was not true and that she was in shock over Alex's death, and that everything would be fine. She left. Suddenly the light goes out and on, and they hear someone's voice. Gillian runs to see what happened. She meets Natalie's daughter, who screams while her mother is in the bathroom with the radio plugged in, electrocuting herself to death. On the second day, Gillian travels with her husband to New York. They go to a party at the new company, and Gillian notices that her husband is behaving differently. He was an antisocial person all his life, but now he is very social and the company's bosses are attracted to talking to him. She asks what happened to you in space, and he tells her that he will talk to her at home and she won't feel bad. Gillian needed it like it was a dream and she couldn't remember anything but Spencer's voice. When she wakes up, she feels pain in her stomach and hears a voice inside her that she cannot describe, but she continues with her normal day. The next day, Gillian wakes up and goes to her new school to teach the children. When she goes, she calls his sister Nana on the phone and tells her that she cannot live in a big city like New York, but she quickly hangs up on her as soon as her husband arrived. The next day, Gillian discovers that she is pregnant with twins, but she is not happy. At night, they go to a business dinner with Spencer's new boss, Mac. Mac is a rich person and loves money very much. Gillian is not happy with this. They talk about work and Gillian learns that her husband wants to design a military spaceship. Mac and his wife go to check on their children, and Spencer asks Gillian, "Why did you change with him?" She tells him that she does not like their new way of life, and all this change happened after the space accident, and in her last words she says that she is pregnant and Spencer is happy. The next day they go to the doctor to check on the pregnancy. Gillian talks to the doctor and tells her that she is afraid and anxious, and that she is having nightmares that everyone around her is dead and that she is dead as well. But the doctor reassures her and makes her attend a special session for pregnant women where they talk to each other, and this makes them feel better and reassured. Time passes and they live happily. One day, Gillian goes to a children's toy store, but suddenly Sherman appears and tells her that he wants to talk to him about what happened with her husband in space when he lost contact with him, and asks her if she noticed any change in her husband's behavior. He told her that he was fired from NASA after he discovered that her husband's signature after his return was different from what it was before the incident. He told the managers that something was wrong with Spencer, but they refused and even fired him. But he was able to obtain Spencer's vital reports and examinations, and they were all different. Gillian feels that he is crazy, and her feelings increase when she learns that he is expelled from NASA, and she tells him to stop pursuing her. But Sherman goes after her. He tells her that Natalie was pregnant when she died, and tells her that Alex and Spencer saw something in space, and that it was not an ordinary accident, because they are trained to deal with accidents, and Ben gives her an audio recording of the accident. Astronauts talking while walking. And when she goes, she listens to him and hears the conversation that Alex and Spencer had before they lost contact. And she hears Alex screaming, and they clearly saw something they had never seen before. She closes the recording, breaks it, calls his sister Nana, and makes her come to her and tell her everything that happened and asks her not to tell Spencer. But at night, Sherman calls her and tells her that he found out that Natalie is pregnant with twins and asks for a meeting as soon as possible. Early in the morning, she goes for an interview at the metro station. But when suddenly she sees her husband appear and greet him, she hides and overhears her husband talking about NASA and its work and offers to invite him to coffee. Sherman does not know how to refuse and goes with him, but he leaves his bag. Gillian tries to catch her, but before she can take it, her husband returns, takes it, and returns it to Sherman. Gillian then tries to call Sherman at the hotel where he lives, but no one answers. But Sherman had a backup plan, and he left a key to it. Gillian has a note with the address written on it. When she arrives at this address, it is a warehouse, and she finds many pictures of her husband in it, and she realizes that Sherman was monitoring Spencer when he returned to Earth, and she finds a videotape, but when it is played, a light goes out and she feels terrified and runs. She goes and plays the tape and Sherman is on it, and he tells her that this tape is a backup plan and that he is now dead. He plays a recording of the conversation between Alex and Spencer and tells her that he detected another signal with them and that they are not alone. He believes that there are aliens that took over the bodies of Alex and Spencer, and that Alex's body could not support the creature, and he died. And he tells her that the person who lives with you is not your husband, and that what is in your stomach is not human, and that they are something. They are supposed to board a spaceship, and she thinks. Her husband says he wants to build a military spacecraft, and she thinks about the dreams she has, and she is also convinced. Gillian, her husband, and her twin are not human. She comes home and treats Spencer calmly. Then she goes to Mac's wife and tells her that she is not happy, and that she wants to get rid of the twins and give her pills. When she goes to her house, she tries to take them, but Spencer finds out and stops her. He hits her with a pen, so she runs away from him, and suddenly her stomach hurts badly, and she slips down the stairs and falls. Gillian is in the hospital. Spencer knows that the twins are fine and goes to his wife and threatens her so that she will not tell anyone what happened. Then her sister goes to visit her and tells her that she is afraid that her husband will change, that she is afraid, and that something is wrong. Then she suddenly falls asleep like what happened with Natalie, and then Spencer comes to her. He brings her a rose and threatens her. If she tries to harm the children, he will lock her up, and he lives inside her, and will not allow her to do so. But she says she will never do this again, and falls asleep and dreams of her killing her sister, Nana, and Spencer. She is very scared and leaves the hospital and runs away. Her husband is still in the hospital, but he does not see her, so she takes a taxi. But suddenly she felt that her husband was standing behind her, arrived at her house, closed the door, and went to the room where she saw her sister murdered. But then she saw herself on the floor imagining. Her husband opens the door and comes in and finds her in the kitchen, and all the water taps are running. She grabbed the radio and grabbed the plug, wanting to kill herself like Natalie, threatening that if Spencer came near her she would kill herself. He tries to approach her, but she sees traces of blood on his hand and realizes that her sister is dead and that what she saw is real. He tells her that he killed her sister and now he lives inside her and controls her. But the water will have reached the entire house, and it will have reached it too, and she will plug in the power plug and lift her foot off the ground, electrocuting her nut. And suddenly a strange, transparent object will appear. He gets inside her and takes control of her. She is controlled by the alien, and years later she marries another astronaut after her husband dies. The twins grow up and start school, and she tells her new husband that she wants her children to become astronauts like their father. And then the movie ends.